Hi, ladies, and welcome back to this week's episode of Sweet Tea. I'm your host, Taylor Dawson Bushell, and I am joined by Kelsey Good. She is the digital director for the strategy group. And again, the background looks different because I am still in DC.
Our favorite place.
Our favorite place. Kelsey, how are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I am so good. I will say, ladies, today we're going to talk about some fun stuff. We're going to talk about what it's like to have your early careers out here in DC. We'll talk about what it's like to be on a campaign, to run a campaign. And then Kelsey's a mom, so then we're going to talk about what it's like to be a mom working, especially in the policy arena. Kelsey,
I love
welcome.
it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
I'm so glad you're back in DC.
Thank you. Yeah, so Kelsey and I started our first jobs together.
We did.
Kelsey was actually there the first day I got to DC.
I literally welcomed her. Was it an Uber or a taxi?
Who
I don't know.
Who
Probably
knows?
Uber. She came with her 2 bags and probably a pink purse
Yes.
and a dress and heels.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of the DC era.
Yeah, and that's when I was like deciding, do I want to take a job here? Do I want to go to like grad school in DC? I mean, in New York, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I feel like you have full permission to share the Metro experience. So the Metro is basically what the subway is in New York. We call it the Metro here in DC.
Right. And like, if you're from Texas, you probably haven't taken one unless you visited New York or DC, which
Exactly.
Taylor, the Texas girl,
Yes.
my first ever experience with somebody from Texas. She came with her teased hair, and I was like, whoa. But also knew we would be friends because we talked on the phone. But that night, you needed to stay somewhere that was like kind of far out of the city, I
Yeah,
believe.
it
So
was like literally out of DC.
yeah, and our old office was a block from one of the metro stops. So we walked with Taylor's bags and our work bags, Taylor in her stilettos to the metro. And she didn't realize it was underground.
Oh yeah.
So that was like the first hurdle was like the escalator underground. She was like, where are we going?
Yeah. I saw it go
What
down and I was
is
like, I don't
He was
love
like, I don't
that.
want to do this. And I was like, well, you kind of have to. So then we get down to the platform, and I mean, I wouldn't say, obviously, it's not the cleanest place. Like, it doesn't smell good. There are sometimes sketchy people down there. There's also people in their like suits and their sneakers, and they're just nobody like is paying attention to you. They're just
Yeah.
like in their own world.
Yes.
So nobody's friendly. Nobody's saying hi. What you're used to in Texas, like
I truly
not a
remember
thing.
walking down the street for the first time in my life and being like, wow, I think there's a difference when I walk in Texas. Like I'm used to people being like, hello,
Yeah.
hi. Maybe not that direct, but like these people were full on like scowling or like
Yeah.
looking down at their phone.
Yeah.
That's not to say there's not nice people, but it was just like a pretty,
They're rare.
yeah, just like a big
Yeah.
change for me.
Yeah. So, long story short about the Metro, Taylor did not enjoy her first experience, did not know what she was getting into. And then when we were on the Metro, like, you could tell you were a little nervous.
Oh,
like,
I
you
was-
did not
yes.
want to be on there. And then her ears started popping because we had to go under the Potomac River. And she was like, my ears are popping. I was like, we're underwater. The look on her face, like, I wish I had a GoPro. But I have it in my mind forever.
I was not having it. It was like, and honestly, I had just seen the episode of House of Cards where
yes, I
the
remember
girl gets shoved by like the main guy like into the metro, and I stood at like the platform spot and I was like,
She stared. Taylor just stared down at the
I was like, I can't. I remember telling us, I was like, I can't do this. I'm not. This isn't for me. Well, thankfully, I warmed up, took
Yeah.
the metro every day for
stopped
years.
wearing heels
Yes.
to the metro.
Actually,
started wearing our sneakers.
That's a good pivot. Okay. If girls ever come to DC, there are rules of engagement for the metro. I think
Yes.
first, don't wear heels.
No.
I learned that the hard way. Heels, you're like bouncing on your toes and those things swing around, like the train whips around. And like you will see girls who are new to DC wearing heels and they will just fly
Oh,
because they have no stability.
Well, and you have to take the escalators down there, and your heels get stuck in the little grooves
That's a good
of
point.
the escalator stairs. So yeah, sneakers or flats for sure. Bring them in your bag. Like we always had an extra pair of flats or
Yes.
sandals
Yeah.
if you're going to take the metro or if you're going to walk after.
Yeah,
For
sneakers
sure.
are like a big rule in DC. Like
Even
you
in your
always have
dress,
that.
it does matter.
Yep.
You'll see everyone
The
wearing
working
them.
girls.
Um,
You
are
have
we
to
like
wear.
gonna dive into the
Oh yeah,
BC
like
tips?
yeah. I think the second one is like you need to wear pants if you're sitting, and if you're wearing a dress, you do not sit down on the metro.
Oh, no, no. The sticky feeling on the back of your legs. Hard pass.
Yeah, and when I went there the first day, I was in heels and a dress, so like I couldn't sit, even though I needed to sit because I was in heels. But I was also like shoved up like a like sardine around
Yeah.
everyone else, so it was like it worked out
Yeah.
because I had many people to brace myself against,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Bring like shorts or leggings or something to change into. If you want to adventure, like if you're going to be here for a while, adventure early in the morning. Like we went on so many early morning adventures, like 6 a.m.
Oh yeah.
before rush hour or in the evening, which like the monuments are so beautiful in the evening. So come
Yeah,
back in
it's
the
definitely
evening.
like do not come at the peak of day. Also, whenever you're at the metro, like huge faux pas is standing on the escalator. You're either walking up that escalator or you step to the left and you let people
Right,
walk past you
right.
because you will get shoved.
Yeah.
People will get angry at
Yeah.
you.
You either walk on the left or you stand to the right. Like people will push you over.
Yeah, because I'm like, hopefully the girls listening, hopefully we all have a desire to check out our nation's capital, and so we're just helping some sisters out right now with
Yeah,
this advice.
totally.
Yeah, and we had like as far as like exploring, like definitely explore during the morning. How many like fun little like fun things did we do before work in the
Yeah, the
morning?
cherry blossoms
That was a fun
in like
one.
March or April is such a beautiful time to come. But again, like we went at 6 a.m., we
Yes.
got our Starbucks, went to the Jefferson Memorial and saw the cherry blossoms. But there's just so much to do here, so much for free, paid for by your taxpayer dollars. But yeah, like take advantage of it. There's so much history here, so many things to do. There's always something going on, whether it's
Yeah.
like happy hour or there's festivals. I mean, there's always
So many.
protests and marches.
Yeah, you can anytime you visit the White House, you just need to mentally prepare. Like you will see someone protesting. It
Yeah.
is normal. Do not
Yeah.
freak out.
Yeah.
Like it is standard
It's just another
practice.
Tuesday.
Yes, literally.
But yeah, like all of the monuments and the Smithsonian museums, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And so many things
I
for
feel
free.
like we can do like a little like guide to DC after this episode because
Yeah.
there's just like so much to do. And like we've been here, well, you've been here the whole time, but like, our early 20s, like
Yeah.
right out of college, which, speaking of college, what is your journey to DC? Because I
Yeah.
feel like everyone has a story of how they ended up in DC. And did you expect yourself to be here?
No. Yeah, so I am from Buffalo, New York. Go Bills. Born and raised, went to school there, and then right before I was planning on going to Liberty University, and then I took a year and lived abroad in Costa Rica, studied Spanish, Bible, met my now husband. So I was there for my first year of college, then went to Liberty, and honestly, didn't know what I wanted to do. I was interested in government, but really on the international, like foreign policy side, I wanted to be an ambassador for the US in a different
Ooh.
country. So I was really interested in that route. But then at Liberty, I just fell in love with American politics and policy. And
Not
at
what you
the
hear very
time,
often.
yeah, no, everyone's like, get me out. Or like, it sucks, which I mean,
It can, but
sometimes,
also
yeah.
I feel like it takes a very brave person, and a person who has like a passion and a desire for it.
Yeah. And at the time, it was, I guess, 2015. We're getting ready for the 2016 election. Everything was like at the height of however many 17 Republicans
Very
running for
contentious.
president and Trump
Yeah.
and Ted Cruz and like all these people. So it was so fun to be at Liberty. Like Ted Cruz announced his presidency there. Trump came, Bernie Sanders came. So it was such a unique and really awesome time to be a student at Liberty. And that just like lit the fire, I think, for me. And then I joined a group called Young Women for America on campus, which that was like just continued the interest. And then that's how I then came and interned with Concerned Women for America as their Young Women for America is the college arm that they have. So interned up here the summer of 2016, and then I moved up full time to work at CWA, which is where we met.
Concerned Women for America.
Yeah, in 2017, and I've been in the DC area since. But so yeah, I moved up here in January of 2017, and I finished at Liberty online, which was crazy, and got pneumonia and
Oh,
got my
wow.
car towed 3 times. So that's another DC tip. Read the parking signs. They're so confusing sometimes,
And they're
but
so aggressive. Like if
oh
you
yeah,
see a tow sign or if you see like they will give you they will. Like
they
it,
will.
it's not a
Or they will
bluff.
tow your car and you have to pay not awesome sum of money.
Yeah, you and
So
I did the whole Dave Ramsey life. Like how much did that have to like I think you have to have a budget line in DC for like parking
parking
tickets
tickets,
and yeah.
literally. And like no matter what you did or what you do, it's like $100, $100. There's like nothing less. So
So where are you working now? So obviously like you transitioned here, you've been working here, you haven't left. Like I left, I went to Austin, but you're still here. So what are you doing now?
So in 2020, well, back in 2019, my mom decided to run for Congress in New York. Now they don't actually have the district anymore, but at the time it was New York 27. And she like announced her race in the summer of 2019, I believe. And then at the beginning of 2020, her campaign manager at the time just wasn't really working out too well. And her consultant, people on her team were like, would Kelsey, your daughter, want to run your race? And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but also, why not? Like, let's jump into this race. I was doing like all the political things anyway. So we jumped in and I went back to Buffalo for a while to run her race, which was so fun. We can talk about the campaign.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that.
So after that ended in June, July, then I started working at the Strategy Group company that year, and I've been here since 2020.
Yeah.
So I'm working on races. The Strategy Group is a GOP advertising firm. We're full service, so anything from TV commercials and video production to polling. I'm the digital director, so we do emails and texts and digital ad buying and social media management. So basically anything that a campaign needs to run and win, we do.
So if you were to get it, what ultimately was your degree?
Government International Relations, the minor in Spanish.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So do you think that if like a student out there wanted to go into like the digital director field, do you think is that more of like a marketing degree? Do you have to have a poli-sci degree to like come out to DC? Like what are your opinions on that? Because I know you worked with like young college girls for a while.
Yeah. Honestly, I think so much of this world is so much more about how you get involved and who you know and like your experience, your internships, and the connections that you make rather than the major that's on your diploma. I think it can definitely help. I think my government background helped in the policy side and just knowing how the government works. I think marketing would really help, or marketing communications on the digital side of how things work. But so much of it you learn as you go. I mean, you know, like you're in graphic design, but
I'm one of those people that end up in DC who definitely did not have a degree in poli-sci or anything. And I am still forever shocked that I ended up here. And yet no one was surprised. And my family, they were like, of course you would be going to DC. I was like, really? I am like design through and through. Like I did not think that I would I did not think that I would move to DC. And yet my involvement is what led me to like this career field. So it's exactly right.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? Even if you're not in college, if you want to get involved and you're a young adult, young professional, and you're a hairdresser or you are a teacher. Like there are opportunities for you to be involved, whether it's on a campaign, you volunteer. Like there's so many things you can do if you want to get involved. But if you are in high school or college, I think there's so much pressure on what's your major going to
Yeah.
be, that while it is important and it can be helpful, you really aren't in a box. Like there's so many opportunities for you to get involved, to be informed and educated, that I think I would still be where I am even if my major was, I don't know,
No, that's perfect.
teaching.
And I feel like that gives a lot of hope because, I've talked to like a lot of girls who are not in this sphere and are just doing, they're in the fitness world or in the marketing world. And I talk about my background and, it usually kind of comes out like, oh man, I thought that I would go work for X, Y, and Z one day, right? Like something prestigious out here. And it's cool that girls had that vision, but it's also like, just because you're not doing it now doesn't mean you can't get involved and ultimately end up here. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many, like you said, events happening around here that it's like if you're involved, you will probably have your voice heard at some point in DC, like the more involved you are. Like even, the other week we had Alexandria on here from Kufi, and she was talking about all the different events that they host and how people can come out to all of those and any
Open
walks
to
of life.
anybody.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to be involved, and especially here in DC, even if you're here just on a short term, like a week or something, there's always something going on to get involved. Or, I mean, the word networking, you just hear over and over and over
Truly.
until you want to throw up. But it's so important
Yeah.
and so valuable that you can get involved, you can attend events and
Yeah, but I also like networking is so important out here but it doesn't necessarily have to happen to get you in the door. So I always like to, tell people it's like I got my job on Capitol Hill by responding to an email, like a mass email that was just kind of like blasted out to a bunch of people. And I was like, I'll apply for it. Why not? And I ended up getting the interview and normally you need friends in that area to kind of put a bug in the air, but it's just like I told you, you told someone else told, and eventually it kind of like got around. It's like, hey, this girl's really interested in it, which is great, but like just replying to an email. Like if
yeah.
girls want to go, you know, have an internship in DC, like go to your congressman's page, like go to their district page. Like they have opportunities. There are many, like you want to enter at the Supreme Court, like there are opportunities to do that. I wish someone had told me in college not to sell yourself short and to go for it because you'd be surprised by how much progress you can make by just saying yes.
Right.
Like,
And
why
putting
not? I'll
yourself
try.
out there.
Exactly.
And getting uncomfortable. Because
Exactly.
sometimes it's just the matter of starting a conversation with somebody to even to know what there is, and maybe it's at some event or on your college campus, or you go to a local GOP group or
Yeah.
something like that, and
There's a lot
just
of those.
striking up a conversation with somebody. And sometimes it is uncomfortable if it doesn't come naturally, or maybe you don't have a business card, and maybe it's just like, hey, here's my phone number.
Right.
But sometimes you just have to get a little bit uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. So you worked on your mom's campaign. I say we, you and I, and probably a lot of girls out there have seen like a ton of these, like, political DC shows where there's Scandal, there's House of Cards, Survivor, all of these different shows out there. Kind of like tell us, what is it like being on a campaign? Are you sleeping a lot? Are you
No.
eating well? Are you getting your fitness on track?
No, not a lot of sleep. So the campaign world is wild. And I think it definitely depends on the scale of the race. So now that I'm in my role now, working with Senate races and Congress races, but then also down ballot races with state house, state legislatures, the campaign's definitely different. But if we're talking kind of federal races, it's pretty all-consuming.
And that's the one that your mom did. She was running at the federal
U.S.
level.
Congress, yeah.
Biggie.
So not a lot of sleep, a lot of events. I think as a campaign manager, you're responsible for managing the candidate's schedule and time, and they're like, hey, you need to make these phone calls today. Like, make sure we're doing donor calls. But then you're also scheduling meet and greets and coffees and who are the people that we need to know and who are the big players. And depending on the district, like you might have to get petition signatures for your candidate to even be on the ballot. So like it's not even a real campaign until your candidate's name can be on the ballot.
Oh my gosh.
And in most, I forget how many signatures you need, like a couple thousand. So
Oh,
you're
just a couple
on the
thousand.
ground. You're on the ground, literally door knocking in Buffalo in like 2 feet of snow
Oh,
with your
wow.
snow boots and your hat and your gloves on. You're like, hello, can you please sign this petition? And so you're organizing volunteers in the grassroots to plan those events or to host events, to go get petition signatures. And then, yeah, social media, like making sure they're relevant and people can go to a Facebook page or an Instagram page and see content. So I think it's like all of the things that you think about, like how can you get this person's name out there, especially like assuming you're not working on an incumbent campaign.
Yeah,
And it's
incumbent meaning they've ran before, they've won before,
right, like
everyone's
they're
familiar.
currently in that position. So yeah, they have name recognition. So you're starting from scratch with somebody who like, maybe they're known in certain spheres. Like my mom was a judge and a lawyer, so like people knew who she was. But you have a whole congressional district, and in that at that time, year 27 was like 8 or 9 counties. So it's like I don't know, 700,000 people that you're trying to reach, at least half of them who are over half of them who are Republicans. So
yeah. Well, that's another thing. Like, was that area, like heavily leaning one way politically? Like, were you fighting an uphill battle? And also, how old were you when you were doing all of this?
24, 23. I don't know how old am I?
24, 25?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
24. I don't remember. That sounds right.
I just want to encourage anyone out there in the career, like DC is run by the youths. And I don't think you know that until you work here. Like
Yeah.
I was a director, I think it's 24 on
Yeah.
the Hill. And I was like, why do I have so much power?
Yeah.
Why do I have so much power? But also like you're running a whole campaign. Like that to me is so inspiring. Like a mother-daughter duo
Yeah.
in
so
New
fun.
York campaigning against someone who has won the district before, right?
Yeah, it was interesting because the like congressman at the time was indicted for insider trading. There was like a scandal, and that ended up being a special election, and then COVID happened. So we ended up like literally doing a whole like COVID happened and everything shut down while I was in Buffalo, and there were people who were calling the campaign like, how are we going to get our groceries? So we ended up like doing this whole grocery drive, and then we still had to meet people, and like people were bunkered down in their house, especially in New York State. Everything shut down. So that definitely brought a whole nother level of complexities. And my mom ended up, so something, I'm Italian, my mom's Italian. Something we've done my whole life is Sunday sauce. Family would come over, we'd have sauce on Sundays. And she did that during the campaign. And that wasn't like a joke because it's who she is, who her family is. So there was one day she made Sunday sauce for over 350 people, and people just drove up their cars and we were giving them sauce. Like,
that's
and by
such a
sauce, I
cool-
mean it's pasta. It's like
Right.
spaghetti and like pasta sauce, meatballs, sausage,
What a
and bread.
creative way though to like let the community know like, hey, I literally care. You are my neighbors. Like I will literally feed you. And I totally forgot that this is like a huge chunk of this was happening during COVID.
Yeah.
So you're fighting a huge uphill battle with
Yeah.
that.
But that honestly though, even now, 2024, and COVID is not, well, I would say not really a thing anymore, but
It's
to
not
each their
Texas.
own. People are still wearing masks here. So even in my role now, like every campaign is trying to come up with creative ways to make their candidate stand out. So how can you tell your congressional district that this candidate is different? Like that's your goal, is for the people there to say like, why should I elect you over Joe Schmo? Or why should I elect you over the current member of Congress? Like, what are you going to do different? And I mean, it's hard. We all know there aren't like there are good eggs in Congress. There are not awesome people in Congress, and leaving it up to the district to decide whether or not this person is the right fit for them. How do they stand apart? Is it a veteran? Is it a mom? Is it a teacher, a nurse practitioner? Like, and creating that story, the narrative around this person, and being consistent. I mean, you don't want to create something that's not real, so like it has to be genuine, and people can tell. Like, we're not dumb.
Yeah.
But your audience, I won't say your audience, but your voters, and they're real people. They know, they can tell if somebody's being genuine or not. So it is creating the story so people understand who they are, but being authentic.
Yeah,
is
and I
like the
like how
biggest
you
piece.
yes, and and they always talk about how Gen Z is so tied to like authenticity, like they're all about authenticity, like they don't want to over glamorize their photos. They don't want to, look like they're this perfect little creature. Like they want the vulnerability. They want all of that. And so I really loved how you specifically highlighted all the different people that could run for office, saying teachers, nurses. It's not just people who are, and this is something I believe for a long time, and is like a myth that I just hope gets shattered, is that like, unless you've got a government relations degree and you've worked in DC or you're a lawyer or, heavily involved in politics, you can't run for office. There's
Yeah.
no way. And that's not true.
No.
Some of the most successful congressmen and women have been teachers, nurses, small business owners, like mostly because you're so tied into the community that you're in. And then I feel like ideally you're that person and you see a problem and you're like, this needs to stop. And then you quickly realize, like in your problem solving journey, that if you ran for office, you'd have a lot of control over kind of what's happening in this area. I mean, like school choice is a great example, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's huge. I mean, I worked on Glenn Youngkin's governor's race, and that issue is literally what basically won him the race in Virginia, was parents being fed up and wanting to protect their kids' education. And the same thing with another candidate in Virginia as well, Jen Kiggins, who was like a mom of 4 kids, a veteran, a Navy veteran, and a nurse practitioner.
wow.
And she was like, her whole quote and her TV commercial was, I got up off my couch and I'm doing something about it. And she's a member of Congress now.
I was going to say that would resonate with me. It was just like, getting up there and doing something, solving the problem, not just sitting there and complaining about it.
Right.
And I like that you're tackling this side of the campaign world versus voting, because we interviewed Bunny Pounds a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about how important it is to get out and actually vote, and how
Which is true.
truly easy it is to just get out and vote. And she
Yeah.
like laid out all the different ways, but it's like, man, if you hear a story like that and it's compelling and it's humanized, it's like, how could you not like want to get out and vote? Especially,
Totally.
I feel like in your role, if you get their story out there and the audience, the voter feels connected to them, I feel like they'd be compelled to go out, because it's like they know this person, like, oh, she's X, Y, and Z. She lives in, this area.
Yeah.
Like,
not just another politician. You're like,
Exactly.
why do I want to go vote for this person?
exactly, because they're so like, I mentioned in a, before on this show that it's like Taylor Swift, this whole like obsession that she has created with her fan base is through authenticity, her sharing herself, her putting herself out there and making herself feel accessible, even though she's not like at all. And yet all these fans feel a genuine tie towards her. Do you ever are you trying to replicate that, not that like insane level, but at least that level of relatability
Yeah.
on social?
I mean, truly think about like not just Gen Z, but millennials. Like, what are the things that we made popular? Humans of New York. Or we love stories. You love to hear, you want to relate to people, like that's why influencers, I mean, they
Good
are not
point.
really relatable sometimes, but like they try to be, they're trying to show their lives at home with their kids, although they're buying like $700 outfits and they're like, go buy this, click the link. Like, that's not real. But they're trying to be, and that's kind of why they started, and why they started getting big was like, okay, here's affordable links for you, and let's try to be relatable, but we love stories and we enjoy watching other people's lives, you know?
That's
You
crazy.
like
Yeah.
jump into somebody and you think that they're your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how many Instagram influencers do we follow? Like, I don't know, I probably follow 20. Like,
Yeah, that
and
like you
you
actually
think you
kept up with
know
them.
their
Yeah.
kids or you think you know their parents when like
Yes. Well, and
they
I
wouldn't
think
know you with like
yeah,
ever.
exactly. Exactly. Roles are reversed. They'd walk by in the grocery store and be like, Who are you?"
Yeah. But that's what you, in a way, similar
Mm-hmm.
to candidates, is you want them to be relatable. Like over and over,
Mm-hmm.
we tell them, like, jump on Instagram stories, do an Instagram
Yes.
live, go on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah. I'm glad you
and
said that
just
because
go
like
live and
yeah.
just be yourself so that people can see. Like, we don't need you to be in a studio with
Mm-hmm.
lights and editing and makeup and whatever. Just be yourself. Like,
Yeah.
turn on your selfie camera in your car and just share your heart with people so that they know who you are and know that you're relatable to them.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like this strategy you're laying out is just like being relatable, but how does that translate from the campaign trail to social media? And you're saying stories, like share your story, share why you got out there. And, something else I've mentioned before is like AOC, I felt like Obama gets a lot of
Oh,
credit
yeah.
for like using social media in like one of the first presidential campaigns, and now it's just normal, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Trump tweeted like thousands of tweets.
Mm-hmm.
I remember before he like even got in office, they were selling like books of all of his tweets. And I'm like,
Wild.
at least they're engaging, at least they're putting their voice out there.
Right.
There's something about it not being scripted that like really gets people's attention. And AOC is like our generation, and she's really great at that.
Oh,
She
yeah.
goes on, she
She like
does.
wrote the script for what it should be
Yeah.
and giving people behind the scenes. Like,
Hmm.
who doesn't love a behind the scenes, you
Yeah,
know?
right?
Like,
Exactly.
that's what, I don't know if it's just a millennial thing. I think Gen Z kind of is the
Oh,
same way,
totally.
that you
Yeah.
just love to like pull back the curtain and
Hmm.
see what's really going on. Like, what do they do behind closed doors in Congress? And
Hmm.
AOC, somebody who like shone light into that nobody else had ever done. It
Hmm.
was taboo. It was like, okay, the
Yeah.
congressman's in the office, you shut the door. And like,
Yes.
there's no social media in there, but
Hmm.
she took advantage of it and she's made a name for herself. And people look to her and
Yep.
they trust her. Like, she
She
has
built
a
trust through
brand
that.
identity that people go to her to find information on what's going on in Congress.
That's true. That's such a good point. Sharing that story, being vulnerable, allowed the audience not just to know her, but to trust her. And so now
Mm-hmm.
they go to her for
Totally.
advice.
I mean, she is like, we've told our candidates, like, look at AOC,
I
you
know.
know?
And it's got to be hard to be like, I've just seen like the right side just seems to always be a little behind the curveball when it comes to creativity. And it's hard for me as a creative to like see this and just be like, please, please, like someone needs to do this. So it's nice to know that like you working as a digital director are taking these strategies and like telling your candidates to do this. I think that's really cool.
Well, I mean, you have people who, especially Republican candidates, just want red, white, and blue only because we're patriotic. And
Yep.
like, of course, red, white, blue, my favorite colors. But sometimes they all kind of start looking the same. Or you
Yeah.
want, hey, let's like try to like go outside of the box. Let's like
Yes.
push the boundaries a little
Yes.
bit and do something fun and different. And not that a brand is everything, but it is so fun when you find somebody who's willing to like, let's go with purple or
Yeah.
let's go with yellow or
Yes.
something like that.
Which are
This
both
changes the
AOC's
game.
colors. Like she literally, like I remember doing like a whole report on how she kind of went outside the sphere of like party lines. Instead of just doing all blue, she broke out and did different colors, and it worked for her audience.
Yeah.
So pivoting a little bit, you're a mom now. How old is your little girl?
She's turned 11 months yesterday.
Happy birthday.
I
That's
know.
exciting.
I truly cannot believe that she is going to be one
I
in
can't either.
30 days, 29 days.
Yeah, she's precious, cute little baby blonde. She's a firstborn girl,
Through and through.
which we are too. We love that.
Yeah.
So, being a mom, has that changed your view? You're like, yes, 100%. Yeah, how has that impacted you, both in your career and maybe even like the way you view like the policies that
Yeah.
you're involved in?
Yeah. Yes. To answer your question, yes. Becoming a mom has changed a lot. I think there's like the very practical ways that it's changed with my time and, like my priorities shifting. And being way more efficient in my work so that I can, as much as possible, shut off so I can spend time with her. Um, but on the flip side, just like the mental and emotional toll of being a mom and like I'm not just looking out for myself now, I'm literally raising a child and teaching her everything she knows. Like they don't know anything. You are responsible for teaching them everything, and how that it's such a big responsibility that I take very seriously, but something that makes me even more passionate and care more about politics and policy and just like being involved in trying to make a difference in this world. Even when I was pregnant with her, I've been pro-life my whole life, and then I saw an actual ultrasound of my own baby, like inside my belly, and it's like that is unreal. Like I'll never be the same again, And you're thinking as you're like, I would be on the ultrasound table or whatever, and you're watching this little baby literally doing flips.
That's wild.
And you're like, how could somebody end that life? And how is it legal for somebody to end that life? Like we've seen the list of the eight countries that have like legalized abortion, and none of the other countries should we be like happy that we're on a list with. So it's just
like
things
we're on the
like
same list with like China.
North Korea and China, and just absolutely wild that that's a thing here. But so yeah, just like not little things like that, but things like that have just really solidified or even made me stronger in my opinions, whether it's safety and like my views on like local policies with crime or education, and like I where are we going to live? What school district are we going to live? Who do we want to be teaching our daughter? Like, honestly, we probably might homeschool at this point because she's not going to school in Arlington, Virginia. But yeah, it definitely has made me care even more than I did before. And I think I cared a lot before.
Yeah. 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 And it's really cool because you and your mom were in a campaign together, and it's kind of, you're like the bridge between like the next generation and your daughter. Like, what are your hopes for the world that she grows up in? Like, if you could script 2 things that you could change within society. I know. Loaded question.
That is a loaded question. I do think something that is even just top of mind right now with what's going on with the Biden administration, changing Title IX, I am concerned, I guess, in that sense of just like her protections as a woman. And I think that's a very valid thing on this podcast, is like, what world are our daughters going to grow up in? And that like, Sophia's already kicking soccer balls and like passing a ball to me. Like, if she plays sports, is she going to be playing against a biological male? Because I'm not okay with that,
Yeah.
And how in America in 2024 are we backtracking in our protections of females when we've come so far? And like, I would say I'm not a today's day definition of a feminist, in that like maybe the old definition, but today's feminist means like anybody can be a female, and like that's not a thing. And so I think that's one thing that I'm like concerned about, that I would just say like, whatever, if you want to identify, but if you are a biological male, you're not participating in sports against
Got it. So
biological
she's
women.
playing sports. She should play with other female sports. Why is that even a debate right now? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Anything else I would change? Just education, I think's a really big deal. But at the same time, I think just bigger picture, the division in our country and how divisive and politicized some issues have become, that like literally divide families. Like, I wish that we came together more, just as Americans, and unified on like loving our country. I think that's something I wish like more people just realized, how good we have it in America.
Yeah.
And were thankful for it and didn't hate on, I don't know, whether, I mean, we don't all love the government, but like didn't hate on all of our leaders and our police officers and just people who are trying to make America a better place.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that it's just like, I miss those like all those, old-timey, illustrations and stuff where they were having this cute little 4th of July picnic or they were having this little parade and
Hmm.
everyone's dressed up in like the fun outfits and wearing red, white, and blue. And it was like such a time for all of us to be together. And now it feels like it's a day that like people pick and choose if they're proud, which has
Right.
just always been so confusing for me living in Texas, where we have so many people that are trying to come into this country. A lot of people are trying to come into this country the right way because
Right.
it will literally change their lives. I mean, I think a lot of times people forget that like Elon Musk is an immigrant. He's from South Africa. Like in his book, he wrote he wanted to come to America. He went up to Canada and then eventually got to America. And look what he's done. Like he's an example of an immigrant who's done amazing things for this country. And yet even he gets beat up on. Even him creating electric cars, a more sustainable alternative to gas, is still getting beat up on. And you just look at this division, just like, what what is happening right now? Like,
Right.
why can't we just like, if we just celebrate one thing, it's let's celebrate, hey, our country isn't perfect, but like it's far
But
better
we're
than it could
free.
be. Yeah, yeah,
You're
literally.
free. You're free to hate the fact to hate that you're American.
Literally.
Yeah, that's so true and so true about Elon Musk. Just because like one day he decided to say, actually, like Republicans might have a good point about this, and then everyone just started hating him.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that like cancel culture's over. I feel like that was something that was trending for a long time, but thankfully is
Mhm.
like gone away. I was very much over that. Which must be nice in your world where it's like, you're not worried about putting something out and then just losing it and
Yeah,
getting
at
them flagged
least
on.
people try or they still want to cancel people, but
Not gonna happen.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's really cool. So do you have any off the top of your head, no pressure, like resources for girls that maybe like want to like maybe visit DC or want to kind of learn more generally speaking
Hmm.
about the government, maybe how it functions, ways to get involved?
Yeah. Um, I think getting involved, like if we're going to talk, I know you guys have all different people on the podcast that can give you different recs, but I think specifically in the campaign world, you can volunteer on basically any race of any level. Everyone's always looking for volunteers, basically begging people to volunteer on a campaign. You're not probably going to get paid, maybe in pizza,
Mhm.
but yeah, campaigns you can always volunteer on or get involved or at least sign up for their emails to like stay informed on what they're doing. Um,
That's a
I mean,
really
just like a
good,
daily thing.
really good.
I listen to the Morning Wire podcast every morning. It's like 14 minutes. It's super short, digestible, and it's like the news you need to know for the day, but it's not like with a liberal bias like all the other places. You can just
Mhm.
get your news and go on with your day. Um, but yeah, I think just getting involved, putting yourself out there. I mean, specifically for the conservative women that are listening to this, like there's so many
Mhm.
groups. I mean, we both started off at Conservative America. There's Independent Women's Forum, Women to Women, um, just different ways you can get involved or looking at your local Republican women's group.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like now as a mom too, I think there's only so much margin in your life for those
Mhm.
kinds of things. And so just deciding what is the most important or um, where you can give. And maybe that's just like school PTA or
Yeah, that's
like being
great.
a lunch monitor and like investing in kids because like they are the next generation and who's at that school,
Yeah.
like showing them how to be a woman,
Mhm.
who's showing our daughters how to be strong, successful women.
Mhm.
And so putting yourselves in positions to like invest in the next generation, I think are invaluable. And you don't have to be a mom to do those
Right.
kinds of things. And like getting involved in your church
Mhm.
or just, yeah, I think there's so many things and like we aren't created and meant to just like be at home by ourselves.
Exactly.
And yeah. that's I think
I
that's
love
what I would
it.
say.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely link those in the show notes because, getting like that like daily news hit is great. I love that you said, like go be a part of a campaign, like volunteer, like just they need you. Like they really
Hmm.
need you. Like you know how
Yeah.
much people are needed and how easy it is to just sign up and just be like, "Hey, like I just want to support, knock on a door. Why not?" It'll give you, especially for college students, like great experience working on
Hmm.
a campaign.
Yeah.
But Kelsey, thank you so much for hanging out with
Yeah.
us at Sweet Tea. We've loved having you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
All right, y'all. It has been great to have you with us. Happy Friday and go enjoy your weekend.